Thank you, Ursula. It's a real honor for me to be with you today and to have been selected the president and CEO of the Alliance. I want to thank Michelle Ashton, the outgoing chair of the Alliance, Deb McGriff, the incoming chair of the Alliance, and the entire board of the Alliance for entrusting me with this new and exciting opportunity. I also want to thank those of you who threw my name in the ring for this job, and Ursula Wright, of course, for her leadership over the past 6 years at the Alliance. I look forward to working with her as I embark on this new journey. Now, as some of you know, I ran the Office of Innovation and Improvement at the U.S. Department of Education from 2002 until 2006. Back then, we used to run this conference, and it was one of my favorite gatherings. So I'm particularly excited to be back at an organization that hosts this great event. I'd be remiss not to acknowledge the women who are responsible for pulling this event together, so please join me now in thanking Angela Christoph and Jenny Wanger for once again delivering a great conference. So I want to take a few moments now to tell you a bit about why I'm here and where I hope to be able to take us over the next year. I was first introduced to the concept of charter schools by Ted Koldery in the mid-1990s. The notion of empowering principals and teachers with greater autonomy in exchange for outcomes and allowing families to select schools seemed sensible. But it was not until I started to meet leaders like former Arizona State Superintendent of Public Instruction, Lisa Graham Keegan, who wanted to use charter schools to dramatically reform her school system, Iracema Salcido from the DC-based Cesar Chavez Public Policy Charter School, who wanted to start a charter school focused on civics and service learning, and more importantly, the families who wanted to send their children to these schools, that I began to see the potential of this reform in a new light. To anyone who questions the merits of charter schools, I usually have one answer or question to ask. Have you visited one? It's impossible to tour one of your schools and talk to your teachers, principal, parents, and most importantly, students, and still question the value of charter schools, especially in urban settings where charters have played a crucial role in revitalizing the community. I later worked at a think tank where I tracked the progress of choice in charter schools at the state level and where we launched a campaign called No Excuses, designed to find those schools around the country that were closing the achievement gap. This is when I had the great honor of meeting Mike Feinberg and Dave Levin at KIPP. At the time, I also began to use some ideas around chartering to frame the federal role in education. In other words, why not have the federal government give states the option to become a charter state by freeing them from federal rules and regulations in exchange for clear education outcomes? And I was then recruited, as you know, to work at the White House to help reauthorize the federal statute governing K-12 education, a law that was reauthorized at the time with broad bipartisan support, and the first step in making federal dollars accountable to the education of the low-income children it was designed to serve. And later I joined the U.S. Department of Education, where I launched the Office of Innovation and Improvement. We tried to bring a new focus on the innovations that charters have fostered and used our bully pulpit to highlight your work. That office is now being skillfully led by a good friend, Jim Shelton. Since leaving the department in 2006, I have worked for a private company called Knowledge Universe, focusing on its after-school tutoring, online learning, and early childhood education investments. One of the things we did early on when I joined the company was to create a national association to represent the best interests of high-quality providers and state child care associations in select states and at the federal level, very similar to the charge that I have been given here at the Alliance. So I had a wonderful experience at Knowledge Universe, but it's not until you leave the charter world that you realize how great and powerful it is. It's true that we have some challenges and that we have a lot of work left ahead, but there is no other movement in the education sector that has been studied more rigorously than the charter sector. There is no other innovation that has grown as rapidly as charters have. There's no other space that attracts more talented leaders and dreamers than this space. And there is no reform that has been able to dramatically and permanently transform public education in our country. What other movement can bring together people like Donald Hentz, the founder of Friendship Public Charter Schools in DC, and Eva Moskowitz, the founder of Success Academy Charter Schools in New York? Charters also bring together George Bush and Barack Obama, Newt Gingrich and Al Sharpton, and the late AFT President Al Shanker, and Wisconsin's Governor Scott Walker. This is also the reform that has been able to get bipartisan, the only reform in education that's been able to get bipartisan support on Capitol Hill, something that we should not take for granted in these deeply divided times in Washington. Why? Because the basic charter bargain, born right here in Minnesota 20 years ago, thanks to Senator Amber Reichgott-Young and her peers, of freedom from regulations in exchange for results, is pure common sense and has been proven to work. We may have our differences of opinion over some issues, but we're united around one goal: expanding access to high-quality public charter schools, especially for low-income students across the country. But quality is, thank you. But quality is and must remain our North Star. To get there, we need to be sharper in how we advocate for funding and be unapologetic about the cost of offering a high-quality charter experience to the families we serve. We need to bring as many stakeholders as we can to the table, and we need to be more aggressive in getting our message out to those who don't know what a charter school is or may be misguided by its potential. Let me expand on these 3 points a bit. First, funding. I had the great privilege to work with Caprice Young, the former board chair of the Alliance, during her time at Knowledge Universe when she was running one of its online education units. In this capacity, I spent some time looking at charter laws in states like South Carolina, where at the time, the per pupil allocation that followed children to a charter only included the federal and state allocations, so the local funds were not following students to charter schools. What I was struck by in these legislatures was how much education needed to take place to convince lawmakers about the true cost of educating children, and how, as newcomers, there was an expectation that we should be happy with a lower per pupil allocation, even though the bar on what we had to accomplish was far higher than the bar set on traditional public schools. We can't win this debate by being shy about the true cost of educating children. And we can't win this fight if we're busy dividing up a small pie when we should be trying to expand the size of our pie in the first place. Especially at a time when we have over 600,000 students on charter school wait lists around the country. I'm not naive about the difficulty of asking for more money during these tough economic times, but our strategy really needs to be long-term, focused on using the federal lever to entice states to strengthen their charter school laws, to attract more entrepreneurs to innovate in our space, to help scale effective charter schools with a focus on ensuring that every child who graduates from a charter school is ready for college, and to make sure that facilities finance is baked into every state funding formula. Second, the importance of stakeholders. You all have probably heard the African proverb, if you want to get somewhere fast, go alone. If you want to get somewhere far, go together. Fortunately, right here in this room, we have the most diverse stakeholder community one could ever ask for. We have educators, operators, charter board members, authorizers, associations, facilities finance experts, you name it. We have folks from all over the country. We sit on so much data, so many innovative practices, and so many actual life-changing stories. One of the things that I'm eager to do is to harness these resources so we can be on the offensive at the federal level, building on what Todd Ziebart has accomplished for the Alliance at the state level in partnership with state charter support organizations, and also to work with Todd and Renita Turkal at the Alliance to continue to support their work at the state level. Which brings me to my last point, the importance of making sure that more people are aware of what we're about. Our movement includes charter schools that have yet to open, independent charter schools with no interest in replicating, independent charter schools with aspirations for replicating, and networks of charter schools. I know that it's going to be hard for one person or group in Washington to speak on behalf of such a diverse sector, but having lived in DC for 20 years, I also know that if we're not defining our message, our opposition will. And while we're diverse, we're united under one common goal, to offer a high-quality education to the students we serve. So one of my highest priorities will be to make sure everyone knows what a public charter school is and why it offers the best hope for a better public education. But to reach this goal, I'm going to need all of your help. I'm open to your ideas, to your mid-course corrections, encouragements, and prayers. Thank you for giving me the honor to work for you. I look forward to spending more time with you today and look forward to working with you on ensuring that every child has access to a high-quality public charter school over the next 20 years. Thank you.